I want to say last week when we learned about from press reports of some shootings in North Tulsa, and there was a task force appointed based upon the information that was coming from the field. And then we learned that the suspects were white and the persons shot were black. We all came to a premise conclusion that this was a hate-based shooting that was motivated such that we have national figures now coming into our state to try to help us sort this out. On Monday morning, and actually I was interviewed last week as well, and the idea that we would have someone out there shooting a member of, or members of one race with motivation because they had hatred for another, I find to be appalling. But on Monday morning when I walked into work, I received a letter from a mother, and I distributed that letter to each of you, and I'd like you to read it because it's from Jake England's mother. And it was that letter that caused me and my team, Marvin Lozama and Clark Brewster, to make a visit down at the jail and spend parts of the last 3 days talking to this young man, Jake England. And this morning, we actually videotaped Jake, and I have a copy for each of you, and you'll hear his words and what he has to say. Now, we're not going to discuss the shooting, but we will discuss who this young man is. And he will tell you in his own words a little bit about himself. He's a 19-year-old kid whose dad was killed in front of him when he was 17 at the Comanche Apartments. His dad had come to the aid and rescue of his sister, Carly. Carly was married to an African-American man that was accepted into the England family. They had, Carly and he had 2 children. They're Jake's niece and nephew that he helped take care of. He loves them. His dad was shot before him. His mother was taken when he was 8 years old and put in prison for an arson case, and he has not seen her since other than to visit the prison and talk by telephone. He met a young woman a few years older than him that had 2 children, and then they had a child. Her name is Sharon Wild. On January 12th of this year, 2012, Sharon, in postpartum depression, shot herself in front of one of her children and also in front of Jake, leaving him with a 2-month-old baby. This man worked every day of his life. From the time his dad was killed, he had worked with his dad. They had a tree service. He worked with his dad. He's grown up on the North Side. He's a product of the North Side. That's where he chose to live as well. Most of his friends, many of them are black. He has family members that are black, and there is no hatred of blacks in him at all. This young man is of Indian descent, American Indian descent. He's Cherokee Indian. He's never been in trouble in his lifetime, except one time getting arrested for not having a sticker tag on his license plate. If any of you met this young man, I think it would dispel any belief that you would have that he was motivated by hate for African Americans. And the reason I think this is important to bring out now is I don't want what's going to take place in this community to be premised on a false premise, to be something that motivates people in some way, in the wrong way, based upon something that we know in this instance is not true.